James, as the pinnacle of motorsport, how important is it that Formula One is seen to be the absolute cutting edge of automotive technology?
I think that's hard to say because Formula One is an intoxicating mix of all sorts of things that I find very fun and millions of other people enjoy as well. But I think it's hard to pin down one thing and say that's Formula One. But I can say, as a boy growing up watching it, for me that was the key thing. And in survey after survey, it appears that this is also for everybody else an important thing. And so I'd say it's very important.
As an engineer, can you talk us a little bit about the challenge of working to a new set of regulations, such as the ones coming up for 2017? Is a clean slate, more or less, or a real turning of the page, something that you as an engineer really cherish as a challenge?
Every year is a fun challenge, but a new set of regulations is particularly so. It's a mixture of enjoyable and frightening in equal measure. Enjoyable because all the things you have been working on you get to put aside and try to think completely fresh about how to attack a problem. That's always stimulating. Frightening because every Formula One team faces the same dilemma. You have the car you're racing and the car that you're birthing, and that challenge when the rules are very stable is more easy to handle because much of what you're doing on the racing car now will also work next year. When there's a fresh sheet of paper, it's very, very challenging to judge exactly how much of your resource you put on one project against the other.
Given the current state of play, where you are versus the current benchmark team Mercedes, would it be more straightforward for you to continue with these regulations and catch them and beat them that way, or does the 2017 new piece of paper give you a better chance to get them?
Well, we have a duty, an imperative, I would say, to win in every year, and so we have to deploy our resources in a way that makes sure that we're giving the most effective challenge we can in this racing year, and also to make sure that we're going to have our best chance of winning next year. That's a very difficult nut to crack, but it's one that we intend to do.
I had an interesting debate in one of the recent team principals, team engineers meetings at one of the Grand Prix in the FIA conference about where the balance lies between the importance of chassis, driver and engine, and whether it's a third with the current setup. What's your own view, and will the 2017 regulations change that balance?
I would say, as it stands at the moment, I'd probably put it 20, 40, 40, with the driver being the 20, and the other two sharing the spoils. Next year, we'll see the aerodynamics, the chassis take a slightly more prominent position in that ratio, but not so much. The engine, the power unit, is still going to be extremely important next year as well.
Obviously, the power units in Formula One have been a huge talking point ever since they were introduced back in 2014. Can you just explain briefly how impressive they are technologically, in terms of how big a step they are on in terms of engine technology?
Well, they are exotic and remarkable beasts indeed. We talk about thermal efficiency. That's the key metric for whether your engine, your power unit, is a good thing or not. Maybe it's not a term that's used very often in the high streets, but our job is to get as much out of every calorie of fuel that we put into the engine, as much of that fuel as possible delivered in useful power to the road. And we talk about the barrier, the 50% number, as being a magic number for the power units that we're at the moment. Might not sound like a high number to everyone else, 100's a lot better than 50. But to put it in context, a decent road car is in the low 30s. The only other things on the planet that approach the sort of thermal efficiency that we're seeing with our Formula One power units are either very, very academic demonstrator things in universities, which are nowhere near being usable as devices, or they are enormous ships, diesels that go at about 90 RPM. They have one operating condition that they work at for day after day after day. They have crankshafts that weigh 600 tons alone. those are the three things on the planet that can do what we're doing right now, but we can do it with a little flexible racing engine that a driver can use around a track, can control exquisitely through corners, and yet can deliver the sort of fuel consumption that nothing else is capable of.
And the final question, James, obviously we've just seen unofficially the fastest ever top speed at Baku at the weekend. The lap times in some of the places we're going to are coming down dramatically in comparison to recent years, and yet there seems to be sort of negativity around the current Formula One, that it's not as exciting as it should be. How do you square that?
Well, some people think lap times aren't so important, that racing is the closeness of the racing is the only thing that matters, and I think that both matter. We would like every race to be a proper fist fight, and it's getting more and more that way. There is some very good racing happening in the field this year, and it's only going to improve as the year goes on, and I hope next year too. But at the same time as this racing is getting better, the lap times are coming down. And if you look at, where the historic best lap times are, and they're sort of back a while. They're a few years ago that we set the all-time peaks, and we're starting to approach those now. And I'm looking forward to next year, because next year we're going to start smashing those records, and I hope then we're going to have the lovely thing of having both close racing and also lap times that have never been beaten in the whole history of the sport.